Happy Sunday, everybody, as we come to the end of week 2 for the Tarkir Dragonstorm. I had a little brain fart there. We have seen a fair amount of mono red. There's been a fair amount of complaints and discussion around mono red. This week, all of the meta breakers that have met my criteria for having at least a 60% win rate for 50 matches and successfully piloted into Mythic are decks that are good against mono red. So it's not like there aren't strategies that win against mono red, right? I mean, like Orzhov Bats is highly favored. The mono black midrange that we'll talk about next had a 70% win rate against mono red. So if you're struggling against all that monstrous rage and you really hate that card, then I suggest doing some form of strategy that is weak against Azorius Omniscience. And Azorius Omniscience is the other deck that I think is more of the real problem, because combo decks tend to get better over time. And so we've seen it getting better and getting more tools, and it was a number 1 deck before it got the cards in Tarkir, and some of the cards in Tarkir work really well for the strategy. So I expect it to only get better from here, unless we see some significantly better graveyard hate. Because graveyard hate that comes in the form of graveyard hate that comes in the form of artifacts or enchantments is too easily disrupted, right? So the Ghost Vacuum and the Rest in Peace really aren't a problem for the Azorius Omniscience. But the other thing too that I like to do on Sundays, because Sundays is supposed to be a little bit more rambly, a little bit more community oriented than my best of 1, best of 3 meta review on Monday. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's been a part of this community. Just hit 6,000 subscribers, which was really exciting. I kind of have a little goal of trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So thank you everybody for joining me on this journey. And then also thank you to my YouTube members. I didn't get any new ones this week, but I do appreciate those who have helped me out on YouTube and by becoming a member. And also those who come over from YouTube and join me on Twitch. I streamed for 8 hours on Saturday, 7.5 hours on the Saturday before that. And it's always fun to see some of you guys come over from YouTube and be able to talk to me live on Twitch, because I get to know you better, right? So it's always fun when that happens. So appreciate you guys, and I hope you're all doing well. Now that being said, let's get into it. This one was Orzhov Bats. The other thing that I like about this is it's a little shout out and celebration for the people who have met the criteria. So this is Orzhov Bats by Haven Gardo. Went 70 and 48 for a 59%. But part of that was in Mythic already. They were 62% before they hit Mythic, and then they kind of dropped down, because this strategy does worse once you're actually in Mythic, because there's less mono red. And but we do see that so it's a pretty standard list as far as the core goes. We've got the Snarling Gorehound, which helps you surveil things off of your low-powered creatures, then get stuff into the graveyard. You're basically filtering through the Explore and the Surveil to hit a Dewdrop Cure or Raise the Past to bring everything back. And then the Starscape Cleric pings them for each life that you're gaining off of the Sanctifier and the Life Creep Duo. So sometimes when you cast the Dewdrop Cure or the Raise the Past, you just win on the spot. But it's an interesting strategy. It's very board centric. It's weak to exile, right? And like temporary lockdown is what this deck does not want to see. But it does well against mono red because you can chump block. You can actually afford to throw your guys in front of the monstrous rage because you're planning on bringing everything back anyway. Just be a little careful about losing the Gorehound and Amalia specifically, because they enable your combo. As far as last but not least is the lands. This person has run a little bit of a budget land build, so if you're just going to copy and paste this, I do think I would tweak the lands a little bit, because they dropped 2 copies of Caves of Koleos, which we usually see as a full playset, and then we also have only 1 Concealed Courtyard instead of 4, and these are pretty standard. You're going to see them in a lot of Orzhov lists, and this one is this pilot instead brought in 2 copies of the Bleachbone Verge, and which we got in Aether Drift. And it's an okay substitution, but they kind of tweaked their mana a little bit with the Bleachbone Verge, because this is more like you have 15 black sources and then only 13 white sources, which I don't 100% approve over the Concealed Courtyard, right? I think this is technically a little bit worse because of that, because you want 14 and 14 here. And they also brought in the 3 Scoured Barons, right? So clearly they spent their wild cards crafting the fun cards instead of the lands, which is really common. Yeah, I think you'll actually do better to do it the other way around, just saying. But yeah, you know, the deck does function with the budget lands as well. All right, and now this is the, you know, number 2 weapon against mono red. If you're struggling and hate mono red, then mono black midrange is your friend. It is also a strategy that can struggle against the Azorius Omniscience deck, which is partially why I think we got the edict that exiles their graveyard, right? So this one is not running that card from Tarkir. I think it slots nicely into the deck because it's like a Shieldred's Edict. I think it's sorcery speed instead of instant though, and it doesn't hit planeswalkers. So like obviously everything comes with a pro and con, but it will definitely help out your matchup against the Azorius Omniscience to be able to at least clear it once. You know, it's not like you automatically win the game kind of thing, because it's at sorcery speed. If it's at instant speed, you can do it in response, like the Kutzel's Flanker. But anyway, this one was piloted by a Rapid Fire Geek and went 104 and 60 for a 63% win rate into Mythic. And this one's also a pretty standard list. You've got the Unstoppable Slasher into the Bloodletter of Aclazotz. The one Triple Pip Black wants 21 sources of black, so you don't usually see this drop below 21. Sometimes you see like 3 Soulstone Sanctuaries and 21 Swamps, but that's why you see this number at 21, is so that you can turn 4 Bloodletter of Aclazotz 90% of the time. And then you've also got like the Archfiend of the Dross, which really helps out against mono red, giving you a big flyer, a big body. You know, hitting them for 12 damage if you've got the Bloodletter of Aclazotz in play. And then you just have a plethora of disruption, right? So Shieldred's Edict, Nowhere to Run, Go for the Throat, Anoint with Affliction, Cut Down, Duress for hand hate, Liliana for hand hate and creature control, and yeah, Deep Cavern Bat for taking away your opponent's removal. And so this strategy has been around for a while. It's nothing new. That's one of the complaints, I guess, is that there hasn't been a huge shift to the meta yet. I do believe it's coming. Just it takes a little while for these things to settle. I've told people time and time again, and I'll repeat it, don't craft until week 2 or week 3. So this seems like we haven't seen a lot of the Tarkir cards, which I do think fit in the strategy. They just haven't made it down through, you know, through the pipeline yet. So we'll keep an eye on it. This one also, though, is running the Soulstone Sanctuaries that pair with the Demon Synergies instead of the Mishra's Foundry. And the Mishra's Foundry is commonly played in Best of 1 over the Soulstone Sanctuary because of how good it is against mono red, giving you a body to throw in the way, right? So the Soulstone Sanctuary can only be activated by 4 lands, and then including itself. So you're not making this a body until turn 5, and against mono red, the game's over on turn 4, right? So the Soulstone Sanctuary works a little bit worse against mono red, and that's typically why you'll see the Soulstone Sanctuary in Best of 3 builds and the Mishra's Foundry in Best of 1. So, but either one, you know, are decent options. Again, Magic is a game of pros and cons. And last but not least is Mono Red Burn by something in Japanese. I assume I'm not fluent in symbols, and there's a name for that I should say other than symbols, and I apologize. I'm blanking on it. But this is 119 and 87 for a 58% win rate, but they did do a full climb, and I wanted to talk about at least one new archetype this week, right? So it didn't quite make my criteria, but it did have a successful climb from Bronze to Mythic. It's an alternative strategy to the mono-red mice builds, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's leaning off of the Corey Steelcutter, which we've seen a lot in Is It Prowess, or Is It Aggro, and so it's kind of, it's taking that, but it's getting rid of the blue and just leaning on to the single red combat, or mono red, 1 red mana value tricks, right, or spells. So Bolt Wave, Burst Lightning, the Monstrous Rage that everybody hates, Shock, all able to cheaply boost up your Slick Shot Show Off. This one's not running the Fling. I kind of wonder if this deck would work better with two flings instead of the Tursa. But Tirsa gives you a little bit of top end. It's a little bit of an alternative to the one that the 3/3, the Screaming Nemesis, and but works with the overall cheapness of the deck. Being able to actually get 7 cards in your graveyard is reasonably doable with this strategy. And then you have the Wren's Resolve, which allows you to get additional dig when you run out of gas, if you run out of gas. And then we have like 1 Conduit Pylons here to give us a little bit of Surveil that kind of works a little bit with the graveyard synergy. It's definitely not totally figured out, right? But it's definitely a unique build that I haven't seen before, and just thought I would share with you guys in case you want to join the dark side and beat people up with the Monstrous Rage and the Quarry Steel Cutter. So, yeah, I do want to say that this set, there's been a lot of frustrations towards Standard, and I get it, right? Like there always is. But it's been a really fun set, and I really encourage you to check out Draft. You'll notice that like whenever I'm on Twitch, I'm not playing Constructed, I'm playing Draft, and part of that is because you get a more set specific experience when you're playing in Limited, and you know, because it's only those cards from Tarkir, and you get a different experience than like there's cards that you will never play in Constructed that you get to play in Draft, right? So if Standard's not doing it for you, definitely I encourage you to expand your horizons. Explorer and such, right, are definitely decent formats as well. And you know, if you want ever to come over and learn how to draft every Saturday or so, my schedule's a little bit all over the place, but I'm always happy to help beginners learn how to do one of my favorite pastimes, which is it's an expensive hobby, especially to learn, but when you get there, it really does give you a unique experience. And Tarkir has been a really fun set in Draft. It's been a difficult set in Draft, and lots of content creators who usually are killing it are struggling a little bit this time around. But it has been really entertaining and really fun to have these like series of haymakers, and the games have been just crazy. So anyway, I'm rambling. I hope you are doing well. This is gonna be a little bit of a shorter meta breaker because there really wasn't much to talk about this week that we haven't already covered in the past. And you know, innovation's around the corner. Don't you worry. And if it's not, you know, like I guess I could bring in some of my builds that are using some of the Tarkir cards. I might do that down the road. We'll see. Yeah, so if you like these sort of ramblings and want to help support me in my hobby of talking about Magic the Gathering every week, consider becoming a YouTube member. If you have any questions, I'm happy to do deck techs. It's one of the perks of being a YouTube member, but I know a couple of people who have cheesed it and asked me anyway. I did a couple of commander builds, like budget EDH builds for Mono Black this week. That was a lot of fun. So, you know, don't hesitate to reach out, and, you know, I promise I don't bite. And have a wonderful weekend. Good luck on your RCQs if you are competing. We are, I think we're returning to Standard in Memphis coming down the line here. So if you're in the competitive scene, good luck with that. And if you're just playing on Arena, good luck on your ladder climb. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the Best of 1, Best of 3 meta review.